So we're here today at SOLIHULL MOORS with the CEO Anne-Marie Eden and Chairman Daryl Eales. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I'm Gary Salmons from Centrick in Solihull and just want to get a bit more understanding about SOLIHULL MOORS, obviously your roles and a bit of history of the club really. Best place to start would be with the inception of the club as a whole, so the merger between Solihull Borough and Moor Green Football Clubs back in 2007. How did it come to be and what were the logistics behind that?
Well, as in lots of walks of life, the merger of the clubs was a marriage of convenience because and a marriage of necessity, because both of them had Solihull Borough and Moor Green had rich heritages as non-league football clubs, but unfortunately, even at non-league level, football is a business because you have to pay the players. If players played for nothing, football could be the greatest game in the world because it would be no economics involved, but unfortunately that's the way of the world. And even at non-league level, clubs have to generate revenue or seek director support to exist. So the clubs came together, which I think ultimately was a fantastic marriage. But, you know, I got involved in 2018. There are a number of people, Trevor Stephen, Mike Turl, who deserve huge amounts of credit for why the club exists at all.
Yeah. So sort of a marriage to do with finance, support, saving two clubs, bringing it into one, I suppose.
Correct, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. And going on to that level, I suppose you can see how the necessity for the merger came about. At the higher end of the Football League, it's all seen as glamorous and money, which is clearly not the case further down the pyramid. So in reality, for clubs like the Moors now, what's it like running the club? Not necessarily going into finances in details, but the struggles, the pitfalls, and ultimately what you get back out of it as well.
Well, I think all fans know that certainly at our level, they're loss-making enterprises. So they do depend on local business support, which Anne-Marie can talk more about. We get fantastic support from local businesses, shareholder support, and the reality is, for me, in sport as in life, if you're not moving forward, you're probably going backwards. So at every stage, you know, since I've been involved here, I think one of the things we've done is transform the external impression of the club as one of the fans said to me, you know, when Moors got promoted 5 years ago, it was Moors were visiting the National League with the likely destination to be relegated back into National League North or South. I think now, you know, most of our fan base are disappointed because we didn't get into the playoffs in the National League. Now, for me, that's relative success because we've transformed the internal and external ambition of the club. So everyone believes the long-term destination for this football club will be the Football League. And my long-term ambition is to be playing Blues, Albion or Villa in a league game. And not because they've all been relegated.
No, well, which could be the case. No, but it's always good to see, you know, as you say, it's any business. Football is a business at the end of the day. You know, you need to progress.
Anne-Marie can probably talk more about the impact of COVID on operations, running the club, and particularly those much needed sponsorship and hospitality revenues.
So yeah, I suppose with that, Anne-Marie, the commercial aspect then of getting sponsors is the main focus, looking at local sponsors, national entities. I mean, what is it that you go for?
Well, just talking about COVID, we had obviously a whole season where we've still got businesses, local businesses, shareholders, sponsors that have remained loyal to us throughout this season. So we have to be really grateful for them because football carried on. So we'd still got money going out, but we needed obviously money to come in. So they're really important to us. But I think over this season, we've got closer to our sponsors and shareholders and directors, and they've seen the need and the desire actually to still want to be involved, but actually on a greater scale. So we're talking to businesses, and it doesn't have to be just local businesses. It's anybody that actually wants to be involved in a very good story of a community football club. We're bang in the middle of Solihull, and we are surrounded by higher up clubs like Blues, Villa, all of those. So it doesn't really matter what size business. It's just people that want to be involved, that they will gain benefit from as a business as well as us. And moving forward, partially because of my background putting people together, and I just can't help that in the business world on a relationship point of view. Anybody that does become involved in the club, I think they will gain more because we can help on the interaction of local businesses and national businesses together. So they'll be helping us, but we'll also be helping them, and we're all going to have fun along the way.
So it's creating synergy, ultimately, I suppose,
Yes.
and yourselves being an introducer to businesses.
Yes.
But I mean, from a business point of view, everybody wants to be affiliated with a good story, a good news story. Not everybody's always out for the financial gain or the relationship gain. To be associated with something positive and progressive is always good.
But I think that applies to every single aspect of the club. I mean, the question I can't answer is who is the new manager, but the list of managers that we have been able to attract who wants to manage Solihull Moors is testimony to a belief in football about, at some stage in the next 3 years, 5 years, Moors will get into the Football League. And managers are human beings. They want to be associated with success stories and projects, and they want to create their own legacy. And I say to everyone who comes to Moors, you've got a massive opportunity that if you are a shareholder, director, manager, player, sponsor, the season we do get promoted, you are never going to forget that, and that will be on the record forever. Yeah,
the first time going into the Football League proper, I suppose, as it were. Which again is testament. I've personally seen the growth. I'm from Solihull. I've been from Solihull for years. I was born here. Obviously before the merger when the club didn't exist, and then it coming into existence. Just the talk in and around social groups of Solihull Moors and people attending games, families attending games, certainly seen it grow. Bizarrely, I mean, you mentioned other names, obviously they've been involved with the club before, but there's been people where I've been at other sporting venues that are now coming to the Moors, and that's not league football, Blues, Albion, Villa. It's different sports in essence. So you've got Nolan Dorridge Cricket Club, Blossomfield Cricket Club, loads of the sort of fan participation and their player participation. I think there's getting more affinity towards football on the Moors.
And I think Anne-Marie hit the nail on the head is that we are first and foremost a community football club. So we don't have any. The great thing about being effectively founded in 2007 is you have no baggage and you have no legacy. So everything is created. So, and we don't have any expectation in large measure. It's all opportunity and it's all excitement and it's all enthusiasm. And that way. But the challenge is we do need to build a fan base because we don't have one. And I think we did a reasonably good job pre-pandemic. The issue for me is I don't know where the hell we're going to land post-pandemic, partly because, let's be honest, a degree of success makes it a lot easier to attract crowds. And I don't know where the attitude of a lot of people is going to be to come into football matches post-pandemic. I mean, you tend to surround yourself with like-minded people. If I'm perfectly frank, most of the people I know, the pandemic's over and they're just sort of subject to the rules. They're 99.9% back to normal. But I know that's not representative necessarily of the whole population. But what we have to work even harder from a marketing perspective, PR perspective, a networking perspective to get more people down here. Because what Anne-Marie is brilliant at, if you come down here, you will come here again.
Yeah, once you've got them through the door, it's easier to retain them, I suppose, with the offering that you've got.
It's on both levels we've got to look at. It's the fans that want to be outside at the edge of the pitch, coming in, having the pie and sitting outside. And it's also the people that come up here as guests, who've people got hospitality seats. And that's the bit that I'm here doing, really. I can't be out there as well, but people do come up here, they're a guest. I I didn't realise it was like this. Can I buy seats? Can I come back again? And then they do. So this bit can grow. But there are two levels of growing the fan base. We've got fans up here in hospitality, but we've also got to look at what will make fans come back on a normal standing outside.
So, yeah, your traditional
It's,
terrace
yes,
fan.
yeah. It's two
But
areas.
it's a two-edged. I mean, I'm sure fans will understand this, but certainly business people will. That if you've got fans paying a tenner to come in, and as the attendance increases, you get increased stewarding costs, particularly in COVID times. The marginal revenue benefit of more fans, unless you get 3,000 more fans, is actually relatively inconsequential. But it is essential to build the credibility and heritage of the club going forward. So we absolutely need to try and drive gates to 3,000. But alongside that, you need 20, 25 local businesses who are putting in thousands of pounds just because they want to be part of something that is a genuinely community-based football club that judges its success by what we do on the pitch and what we do in the community.
Yeah, and then especially going on to the community as well, as your target audience for new fans is sort of corporate clients as well as your traditional terrace. In the community, we've looked at the Solihull Moors Foundation, certainly. Can you just let us know a bit more about how you're working with the community through that and what the club's offering?
Oh, me. Okay. Solihull Moors Foundation has always been, we've had the charity arm as part of Solihull Moors, but it's grown, basically. We've gone large. Because it's running alongside us as a foundation, what people don't always realise is all the work that we did in the community, because it wasn't based here. So Becky Fox is the CEO of Solihull Moors Foundation. She used to work under the club, out doing food banks, hygiene banks, working with Women's Aid. We've got disability football club, little groups. We've got so much stuff going on, but now it's going to be standalone and with a base here. And we're raising money at the moment. There's one big event, and then lots of other things that we can do called the Moors Fours.
Yeah, can I just chip in? Anyone who'd like to make a donation, we're trying to raise £1 million for a new community centre, and it is completely separate but part of the football club. So it is it's a charitable foundation, but it will enable us to have a proper foundation home and create a drop-in centre. When I owned Oxford United before, I had the pleasure and privilege to go into Everton's foundation. Small story, but one of the things they said was I witnessed is they had a dementia drop-in element, and the old guys who'd got dementia would talk to players from the 1950s and 1960s, and whilst they had dementia, they could remember everything about a football match in 1950s and 60s, and you realise, I'm a businessman at the end of the day, but it breaks your heart to see the genuine goodness that a lot of people do have, and Becky's amazing, but there's a whole team of people that do absolutely amazing things, and we just want to scale that and demonstrate that we have a measurably positive impact in the community. Yeah.
Well, I certainly get that feel, from what we've been discussing today, focusing on the community aspect. Ultimately, same with most businesses, I feel, if you give back to the community and look after the community that you're in, ultimately the community will look after you as well. So doing aspects like the foundation will certainly drive more awareness for the club in a positive light, and will certainly bring people to the club.
I don't think, talking about in the community, this isn't necessarily the foundation side, I don't think everybody knows what else we do here at Solihull Moors. We're more than just a football club, but there'll be people there, and it probably me, before I got involved here, don't know that we've got 80 youth and junior teams that play for Solihull Moors across the West Midlands on a weekly basis. which is huge. The stretch. We can hold events, we've got conferences, we've got a 3G pitch which is used all the time by various different groups, adult groups as well as youth groups. We've got executive boxes here that can be used as office space, so businesses can come in from a different point of view. So not just match day, the club's here for a range of things, and it's important. People, I didn't realise that. But once they come and they know, it's like, oh, I'd quite like to be a part of that, and that's what we want.
So it's creating the club, not as a football club as an entity, but more as a destination venue.
Yes.
There's different aspects that you can offer.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly. And then I suppose leading on to the future, it all sounds very positive. What are the plans for the Moors, firstly on the field and secondly off the field?
Well, I think, as I said to you before we started, it's best time of the year for me because there's no football, so there's no pressure. No, but seriously, obviously we need to appoint the new manager. That'll be in the next couple of weeks. Then there's a massive amount of preparation for next season to ensure, as a minimum, I'd like to think we'll get into the playoffs. But the long-term goal is to get promoted. Problem is there's 14 or 15 other teams in division that have got the equivalent ambition. So we've got to work out how we box slightly cleverer than them. We'll have a competitive budget, but there's probably 2 or 3 clubs that will have budgets significantly bigger than ours. I think we've got a new manager that will be able to use our competitive budget exceptionally well. We're beefing up our recruitment resources. We've got a fantastic new training ground. So I think in infrastructure terms, the club is absolutely ready for league football. Yeah. And, we've put in the foundation first that will underpin future success. Off the pitch, it's me sort of challenging Anne-Marie and Brad, shall I say, to say, why aren't you bringing in more sponsorship?
Yeah, both aspects are a really good point. I think you're doing it the right way. I've seen through the years of football clubs that have gained promotion that probably weren't ready. And ultimately, I think if you don't have your foundation, you're not ready for it, that success can actually end up harming you in the longer term future. So you're definitely going about that the right way. And there'll be a marriage between the two, naturally. Between what Anne-Marie's doing, if the team are performing better on the pitch, it's ultimately going to help you.
Yes.
To attract more.
It's a circle, really. Yeah. I want businesses to think they don't want to miss out from being involved with us. Because more and more are coming and want to be part of it. What we want to say is you don't want to be not part of it, really, in
FOMO.
Any aspect.
FOMO,
there you go.
Missing out,
yes,
exactly.
Yes, and people will miss out if they don't get involved.
And certainly, from our point of view, both personally and us as a company, Centrick, we can see that good things are happening here. It's great to have a club local into Solihull. Yes, there's the bigger boys in and around, but they've been established for years. Yeah. Midlands football has been up and down for years, as everybody knows, with all of the big clubs. So it'd be nice to see a success story from my hometown, Solihull, certainly. And then finally, ultimately, we are a property podcast. So the question we like to leave with all of our guests, if budget was no issue, job constraints, time, location, what would be both your ideal homes? So we'll go to you first, Darryl.
Apart from I already have an idyllic home in Wootton Wearing, and actually, funnily enough, in terms of property for me, it's not about money's no object. It's about location and weather. Yeah. For me, my perfect location is a place called St Paul de Vence, which is south of France, about 6 miles inland from Nice. But you can see it's got a sort of high promontory. You can see the town and you can see the Med. But ultimately, I'd really like to own a vineyard, so that's got to be in Provence or Napa Valley.
Perfect. And yourself, Anne-Marie?
See, mine's going to sound really rubbish now compared to what Darryl's just put on. I would quite like, again, it's down to weather, just something small on a private beach along the Algarve in Portugal, where there really aren't very many British people. Yeah. There are more Portuguese.
A bit more local.
That's it, really.
Now, both sound absolutely idyllic, and I'd take either of them ultimately. But thank you for your time today.
Absolute pleasure.
We'll no doubt be down here next season anyway.
You will.
And look forward to seeing how well you do both on and off the field.
Lovely. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.